what goes on in that department?
In that section?
Yeah, in the criminal law policy.
We provide advice to the minister if there are amendments to criminal legislation, particularly the criminal code, but also the drug legislation and other areas. We will put forward options based on analysis and so on and so forth, and we will prepare cabinet documents for the minister to transmit to his colleagues for consideration.
Yeah, I know the question was a broad one, but I'm interested in it from 2 points of view. I assume that in terms of policy, it included legislative policy and probably mainly that, but I wondered also if it had to do with policy in regard to facilities. You know, we're hearing a lot about how the prisons might be overcrowded as a result of this kind of legislation. Would you folks point it out if there was a risk that we might not have the incarceration facilities that might be needed as a result of legislation?
When we put forward policy options, we try to take into consideration a number of different elements, including the potential impact that it will have on the criminal justice system. So, yes.
Yes. Well, I'm glad to hear that, and it's interesting, and I'm sure some of my colleagues, at least here, were interested on several days after the minister testified here about this bill, and after some had suggested that there might be an overcrowding of our prisons as a result of this legislation, that there was an announcement from the minister that there was a new policy to expand the prison facilities. Would that have emanated from your department?
No. I'm not
I think in the press on the weekend there were several articles about it, and now that's all. It got me. I thought, wow, you know, they're acting quickly here.
I don't know. In terms of the capacities of our penitentiaries and so forth, that really goes to the Minister of Public Safety. That's more his area.
And the policies would
they have their own policy shops, okay, as it happens, and so.
This is the article, right?
Yeah, on your right.
Minister hopes to kill clause.
Right. Well, in any event, I think it's for the other minister. But
it's the justice.
Yeah. But I was interested in that. And the other thing, and this is more within your mandate. We heard from Minister Nicholson, and it certainly rang true with me that what the government is aiming at with this particular amendment or these amendments is a situation that is driven by organized crime. He used the words organized crime, wanting to get these people off the streets and to use any means that would diminish their presence. And he also used the phrase, people are afraid out there, which led me to ask a gentleman, Howard Krongold, who came here as a witness. He is a representative of the Criminal Defense Bar, I believe. And I had to, circumstances necessitated, can't say it as well as he says, prosecutorial, but in any event, asking the question verbally, but getting the answer back in writing. And really, tonight I've been handed that response and by the clerk, and it's been answered by another question. And I need your comments, if you would, sir, because I put it to him. I understand that both of you are critical of the bill with respect to the provision on mandatory minimum sentences, because in your view it will increase the cost of the administration of justice, because you feel it contains provisions that are discriminatory, in particular against certain elements of society, Aboriginals. And then I said, are you critical of any other elements in this bill? Is there anything that the minister has said that he is trying to accomplish with which you agree will be accomplished through this bill? You heard Senator Campbell say that he agrees with many things in the bill because it is tough on crime and will help to reduce this perception which I put to you, is not a false perception. People are afraid, and the bill is directed against organized crime. The answer comes, this bill will not make people safer. Stop there. What is your comment on that? I mean, the minister has said what I paraphrased.
The bill, I believe, has the potential to make people safer. It has the potential to make them feel safer. And I guess in some instances we're dealing with perceptions. But and it is meant to deal with organized crime, but it will also deal with drug traffickers who use violence, who may not be related to organized crime, and certainly drug activities where weapons are used, where violence is used, is I think a considerable concern for a number of Canadians. And if this bill can help to remove some of these violent offenders, then I would have to conclude that it makes Canadian society a little safer, and it might make them feel safer as well.
And in participating in the generation of the policy that led to this draft bill, this bill, that was a factor taken into consideration?
Oh, clearly the concern about Canadian safety and the concern about organized crime was fundamental to the creation of this legislation.
And it's aimed at the big, heavy, as again, we were, there were questions put to the minister on certain petty offenses and situations where mandatory minimum sentence might actually be very unfair in the circumstances and that there could be unintended consequences. Whereas the minister responded, and again I paraphrase, my understanding was him to say, this is not to target those minor offenses, this is to target the really bad guys, if I can say that. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And do you feel that it's clear enough and it won't be subject to abuse by prosecutors and the enforcers?
I believe that this is a reasonably well-balanced approach to the problem.
Okay, well, thank you. I just only will point, Mr. Chair, if I can, I wanted a reference of these articles. Ottawa, this is on Globe and Mail on October 16th, article on page A1 by Bill Curry. Ottawa will expand prisons to suit tough crime laws. The government is leaning toward renovating prisons and building new wings as a short-term solution to anticipated influx of inmates. So the reason I wanted to bring that out, it has been indicated, and nobody has really denied from the Justice or the government side, that there will be probably a tendency to increase the prison population if this law passes. And that the government realizes that and it's taking measures to deal with it.
As we mentioned earlier, it's another department than the Department of Mr.
No, but
Saint-Denis.
I think
Well,
so.
I think Mr.
They
Saint-Denis'
interact.
plate is already quite large, but I don't think you have to answer to it.
Well, I mean, I can certainly agree that there is that perception out there. As to its accuracy, I can't say. And again, we are moving into speculation, and one can speculate one way or the other.
Sure. Well, that's exactly right, and much of the criticism of the bill was based on speculations of that.
And we have invited Minister Van Loan to appear and to testify and to give us some clarity around such declarations.